I don't see a recession, which is a little concerning to me because I think we're close to 15 years since we've had one, 14. If we keep going this way, we're going to end up in a depression. I'm concerned about civil unrest coming up in the next 14 months because of the political word. And I'm worried about what's going on in Europe. Europe is falling apart. Germany is completely bankrupt and no one's talking about it.
We're speaking now with investor, entrepreneur, and businessman Gary Cardone. He is now the head of Cardone Digital Ventures. We'll be talking about Cardone Digital Ventures, his investments, Bitcoin, and entrepreneurship. Gary, welcome to the show. It's good to see you. We've spoken to you a couple of times on Twitter. First time over video. You look great. Thanks for being here.
As do you, man. I'm going to start wearing my blue blazer. You always look so professional. I love it.
Thank you. So we'll talk about first of all what it is you do with your investments. But first, let's talk about the markets right now. If you had a blank slate, let's say you had, let's just say $1 million. I know your people's risk tolerance usually goes up the more money you have. So let's just start with $1 million of cash. If you had no assets purchased, just cash, what would you do with it right now, given market conditions and what you think is going to happen with the economy?
I think it would depend on how old I am and you know, what else I have, what my plans are. If I was 21, I'd probably have a very different strategy than today. But if it was just $1 million of free cash that just showed up and I need to treat it carefully, man, it'd be hard not to pass on. I've never invested in treasuries, but how could you say no to 5%, zero? I mean, really little risk. You can pull it out anytime you want. I mean, for the first time in my life, I have probably 15% of my position in treasuries. You know, I personally don't like real estate right now. I think I can wait 6 months and buy a little bit cheaper. And that's very, very geographically centric. I wouldn't buy London, you know. So commercial, I wouldn't touch right now. I think the knife hasn't fallen completely. You know, with $1 million, depending on how old you are, it's really, I think you have to really, hey, what are you trying to achieve? I personally love Bitcoin. For a piece of the allocation on that $1 million. If you're 21 or 61, I'd probably put 20% in Bitcoin with the thesis that you have to hold it for 4 years. Now, if you're going to be a day trader, you know, guys that trade for a living, I think very few of them make a lot of money long term. But maybe you could day trade it. Maybe you could invest it in some of these new businesses that I think there's going to be many thousands of businesses that are going to be formed around what I call the digitization of planet Earth. So I look at private equity, you know, investing in companies as part of that allocation for me. Having said that, I always do it pretty aggressively and actively. I'm not a passive investor. So that's kind of the way I would look at it. And I don't think there's any big rush to put $1 million to work either. I'd be really patient.
Really? Okay. I do want to talk about that and how to use your cash and deploy cash, not just as an investor, but also as an entrepreneur. I want to talk about your views on Bitcoin, but I was reading this article this morning, this quote by TWC, which is an asset management firm, their CEO, Katie Koch. She was on CNBC and she said, "We are going to have a recession because that's the way the world works." She said, "We haven't had a real one for over a decade and a half." And then she goes on to say that we have to be patient and wait to see higher rates work their way through the system. We haven't seen the pain of higher rates, but it's coming. And then she's explaining how investors should be defensive. First of all, do you agree with what she's saying right there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not a lot I can add, really. I do not believe interest rates are fully baked in yet.
Are you seeing any signs of a recession where you live right now? I believe you're in Florida. It's good to see. I mean, it's one thing to look at the data, which we all know is kind of lagging. It comes out a month after a fact or 3 months after the fact. On the ground right now, are you seeing small businesses hurting? Are you seeing your business associates, I guess, less active? Are you personally scaling back on your purchases? What are you looking at right now?
Well, I was in Tampa, so I live in St. Pete, what I call Blockchain Alley, because there's so many people coming down here that are technologists like myself, Kathy Woods. There is nothing moving here on real estate. There's no buyers, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of sellers. No one's moving. So this market is frozen up. I had 3 offers for 2.75 million on one house, and now there's nobody there. Okay. The consumer is on a spending spree, the likes I've never seen before. The malls are full. I see people tapping their credit cards pretty hard. I don't see a recession, which is a little concerning to me because I think we're close to 15 years since we've had one, 14. If we keep going this way, we're going to end up in a depression. Because I
don't see a recession in what sense? It's going to be worse, or it's just not going to come?
Well, what I'm saying is that they keep delaying the inevitable pain that we have to pay. And like, if you don't, if we continue not entering the recession, I think you're going to enter a depression or a war. Because I agree with your friend, the lady that spoke about the stats, like this is like unprecedented. Okay. The recession, most people think this is a really bad thing. Recessions are necessary for the cycle of all markets. Right? You know that. I mean, you go through the cleansing. 2021, we got carried away with putting money to work. I bought a company 2 years ago. I'm literally raising money right now at a post $50 million valuation when my competitors, 8 of them 2 years ago they would be raising at a $500 million valuation right now. So I am literally a 10x less expensive on my raise of an A round, just because 2 years ago there was so much free money sitting in venture capital, man. They were paying massive multiples. Companies $5 million of revenue being valued at $1.5 billion.
So if you had to raise money for a venture, or let's say you brought up your home, if you had to sell your home, would you take the 2.75 million right now, or would you wait?
I'd take it.
Yeah.
I would take it, and I'm a seller of real estate. I know you asked this question a week or so ago. I personally am a seller here. You're going to hate me for saying this, but I'm a big seller in Vancouver. Sorry, I am. It got carried away, man.
It's been carried away for a while. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, this is my point about the recession, right? The longer that goes on, I think the more pain. And look at what we have here. Your interest rates. The 30-year mortgage is going to be around 8%. Okay. The house price went up double. Okay. 3 years ago, I bought 2 homes in Tierra Verde. Both of them had doubled in price. Okay. I paid 8.6 for one of them. Now it's worth 14 million. You couldn't pry me out of this home. It's extremely unique. The other one I bought for 1.7. It sat on the market for a year, man. 5,800 square feet at $1.75 million. 1 acre of land against a 4-acre lake, a full-on basketball court, okay, full court outside with lights, okay, a pool, the whole deal, 1.75. I looked at that value and went, my God, man. But rates were at 3.25. Now rates are at 8. That price of that house has to come down. Okay. Why? Because the insurance rates in Florida now are jacking up double. You can't have insurance rate, mortgage interest rates. Most of these guys were on floating. Now they're having to convert from floating to or a long dated, cheap 4.5. That's going to really pull liquidity out of the real estate market. And the real estate market hates an illiquid environment. That's when you start getting the marks, right? I love real estate because it's illiquid, but in this kind of environment, it becomes a big, big problem.
If you had to leave your kids an inheritance, and it has to be either, I'm just going to give you like a hypothetical, one or the other, real estate or Bitcoin.
They're absolutely not even a challenge on that question, okay? Bitcoin all day. You know why? How many people do you know that own 1,000 acres in Wyoming, big ranching farms? They give it to their kids, and the kids can't afford to pay the taxes on the bloody property. Okay. You get to a point where you just can't afford it to run it. My kids need to be given assets that they can move. If they want to sell it and then move to do something else, I need to get my kids into assets that don't require maintenance. It doesn't require insurance that they can't control. My lawn man, I guarantee you, $1,000 a month, he's going to raise his prices. Why? Because gasoline just went up 50 cents. His workers hey, they're all going to go work for the UAW. Every guy driving a lawnmower should just apply to the Ford Motor Company and go get 175 grand, right? I mean, this is going to be a real problem. You have interest rate inflation. You have houses going up. You have insurance going up. Food's going up. Jobs are fully employed, but I don't see how everybody can afford all this stuff, man. And to your lady's point, when was the last time we had just even a minor reset here? It's been 13 years. And I'm not convinced that the last time we were here in 2009 that we really worked our way out of the system. I'm quite certain we didn't do it COVID. Okay, so we had 2 recessions. We had what I call supply shock inflation, a supply shock depression called COVID-19. And before that, in 2008, we had a monster real estate problem and a liquidity issue. So, but nobody talks about COVID as a recessionary thing. I'm like, really? The roads were empty, and I filled up my Range Rover for $25. Yesterday, I filled up my Range Rover at $98. Okay, peak of trough of COVID, nobody's on the roads, and now we're here, and I don't think we're done. I think this 4.5, like, go try and borrow $100 million of cash in the market on the street. It isn't 6%, 7, 8. It's 14 to 18. And the credit card guys are fully maxed out. There's 597 million credit cards sitting in Americans' pockets right now, and they're maxed at 24%.
Are you concerned then that people won't have money to buy speculative assets, or what they perceive as speculative assets, Bitcoin being one of them, and that could actually hurt the price?
Yeah, I mean, I could see liquidity issue. I think liquidity drives all markets. If there's not liquidity, then it doesn't matter what the fundamentals are, right? And they sell what they can sell. Not to like overly promote Bitcoin here, but one thing I will say about Bitcoin, I think it's one of the most liquid assets on the planet. And there will be massive arguments on this. Would be a really good topic to get like a Saylor or some other guy, really smart guys that have been in markets for years. My biggest fear of Bitcoin is the lack of liquidity. It's literally my only fear about Bitcoin. Do I think? Because I don't think there's enough coins to really like. Okay, like if 62 million millionaires just want to deploy $2,500, okay, like a guy like you, oh yeah, I'll do $2,500 to Bitcoin, right? Are you going to freak out over $2,500 allocation? No way, right? That's 4.7 million Bitcoin, man. The float's not there. So what happens when somebody wants to dump 4 million? Probably easier to do in the OTC market because you see the big boys out there wanting to buy volume. But if you want to buy 4 million, that's going to be interesting. That's before the ETF, man. That's before large corporate comes in.
That was one of the concerns with the Bitcoin ETF, is that exactly what you're saying. It's going to make it easier for the whales to scoop in large volume and then dry up float. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guarantee you at the top 15 or 20 firms, a monster part of the conversation is, what about the liquidity? If we get in, can we get out? I learned a lesson from a great mentor of mine. He said, there's free cheese in every rat trap. I love that saying. Free cheese in every rat trap.
Yeah, but then you get stuck in the rat trap, right? Is that?
Well, that's the point. That's why it's free, man. That's Facebook. That's the Facebook model. Free cheese like in every rat trap.
I'm gonna start using that one. All right. So before we switch on to entrepreneurship, I want to just close off. So bottom line, you think there's going to be some sort of economic downturn, and you're saying Bitcoin is the answer from an investor standpoint?
I don't think it's the only answer. You just asked me where the allocation was. I would put some in treasuries and wait. I'd be patient, man. Okay. If I could pick up 20,000, look, if I'm in it for 5 years, if I just go look at the charts, I exclude in Bitcoin anything before 2018. I just wipe it out. Don't care about it. Didn't exist. 2018 to 2023, 570% return on it. Okay. 570% return on investment. That has to deserve some allocation. Whether it's 5% or 80%, must be the question. But over a period of time of 5 years, that has been a nice trend. You could have bought Tesla. It'd have been better performing. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities. By the way, I'm not saying that we're going to end up in a recession. I'm actually worried that we're not going to end up in a recession, that we're going to end up in a war. Excuse my language. We'll end up in I think we are at war. I'm concerned about civil unrest coming up in the next 14 months because of the political word. And I'm worried about what's going on in Europe. Europe is falling apart. Germany is completely bankrupt and no one's talking about it.
Gary, is this the right environment right now to start a business like today, within a month?
Actually, this dude, for sure. This is absolutely the time. The best time to build businesses is when people got religion. I have never built a business. If you look at the trend between me and my brother, people are like, hey, how are both of you guys successful? We grew up in a recession. We left school in 1981, top of the boomer explosion. Okay, it was the most people leaving school looking for jobs, the least amount of jobs. Literally, the least amount of jobs were available, and Grant and I were like hustling with these accents to get a job. I have never built a company unless it's in a recession. And the reason is I don't have to compete with San Francisco's ridiculous policy of raise a bunch of money and give everything away for free. And then we'll catch the consumer down the road later. We'll change prices, we'll cross-sell, we'll steal their data and make money. Building a business when you're looking at going, hey, my cost of capital is 12%. I'm going to plug 12% in as my cost of capital. And that means the return from my business has to yield a reasonable return. People are literally raising money and acting like the cash is free. Like there has no cost. They don't plug it into the equation. So when a recession comes around, even if you're borrowing from your own corporate parent, they're like, hey, by the way, cost of capital is 10%. Plug it into the equation. So I like that because discipline shows up here, right?
Okay, but the challenge, like you brought up, is it's harder to find capital right now.
Yeah, but I think how much capital did you need to build your business, David?
Yeah, not much, but this is a low capital intensive business.
yeah, but I'll bet you that you doubled your income.
Yeah,
and that is just the beginning. How long have you been doing this? See, to me, I've been doing this since leverage.
I've been doing this since March, so it's been 6 months now. So yeah.
And so you're going to have a really bad experience to go back.
Right.
I will make.
I'm not going back. I'm just telling you right now. I'm not going back. Nothing's going to make me go back. But
dude, I know you're not. Now you may come do something with a guy like me, like we might, but you're not going back into big corporate with the HR and the politics. My only point is you did that. I use you as an example on a regular basis.
Thank you.
But it's a great story, right? Because this technology is allowing you to do something you could not do in a big corporate 3 years ago.
What are some, all right, so for the people watching this right now, we can pick your brain, somebody who's built businesses. What are some of the major common mistakes you see startup founders make consistently? I mean, I know it's different amongst industries. You got different types of businesses, right? But just consistently, the same types of mistakes you see pop up at the beginning.
Man, we could be here for hours. They make a lot of mistakes, dude. Founders first need to ask themselves, what is a founder? Just because you're a founder does not make you a CEO. It does not make you a coach. It does not make you a quarterback. I like football, but I'm never going to be a quarterback. I don't have the arm. I don't have any of it, right? So the founder has an idea. The problem is his idea is normally too small because he's trying to solve one problem and he doesn't, they're normally really smart, detailed, micro kind of thinkers. What they need to do is find a guy like me that looks at it like the Node 40 business I bought into. They had one product they thought of. I go into the business within 6 weeks and I'm like, wow, there's 5 products in here, man. There's 5 different products that we can sell to, like, they had never thought to go into the IRS. We're literally in our 4th meeting with the IRS now. So I think founders don't surround themselves with the type of talent that lets them really navigate a field. If you think about this as a football game or a soccer game, you need to understand the dynamics of the pitch, right? Many founders, either they're too commercial or they're too technical, and they don't have a balance of both those. The other thing, the biggest mistake is they underprice their products, okay? Just like Picasso would have underpriced his products. Picasso didn't make any money, okay? The guy that sold his stuff made the money. That's an important analogy, right? Oh, wow, you have to execute to make the real money. You're going to execute, right? You're showing up. I just think Picasso was great at putting paint on canvases, but that does not mean that he could establish the price of that product, right? So I think CEOs, and then the other thing they do is they bring in family members and buddies, and that's cool for the first year. But once you start scaling, most of the people that join a really small company, if your aspirations are like mine, I am only interested in building $500 million plus companies. I need to make sure the people that joined me in the beginning, a little small shop, they understand the journey they're on. Most people join these companies thinking it's going to be a mom and pop shop forever. And they won't be able to be there for the journey when the business gets really, really big. That's really a monster mistake a lot of people make.
Just on the part on underpricing your product. So let's say you're a company selling whatever it is that you're selling, and we're trying to negotiate a deal, and I'm saying, look, Gary, I think you're overpricing your product. How would you further this negotiation? Let's role play here. How would you convince me that I'm wrong?
Well, I clearly didn't tell you about my guarantee, did I? See, my services always come with a super guarantee. It's the Cardone guarantee. If you're not happy, dude, don't pay me anything. I don't want to have a relationship with you, but I will be the most highly qualified premier service you can buy. And I think that if you want to buy a discounted product, I'm not the guy. So I immediately, oh, okay, David, you want to deal with the discount guy. No problem. Let me give you his phone number. I'll introduce you. It's no problem. But I think that, like, I'll never be the low guy. I'll never be the high guy either, but I will offer a guarantee. And I think that's missing. Like, here are the metrics, David, that I want you to agree to. This is what my job is, and I'm going to charge you this much if I can accomplish that. Do we agree? The problem with these new markets is most of the customers don't actually know what they actually need. Like, the stuff everyone's blind in blockchain and Bitcoin and this whole industry that's being developed. We're all kind of building it together, which I find to be fascinating. It's a really cool upside opportunity to be able to shape a whole industry. See, I think you're helping shape how media is getting ready to transform. And you're going to go down in the history books as one of the guys that helped shape it, as will Mario and anybody that doesn't blow their name up and keeps their reputation clean. We're going to see this as a pivotal point in media, news, communication. And I know everybody's complaining about the price Twitter's giving them for their clicks, but imagine Anderson Cooper making the move over in ours. He ain't going to walk away from this $25 million package.
I have a question on mindset. I watched a podcast or a presentation by Peter Thiel. while ago, and he was saying that if you want to be a business owner or a founder, your goal is to have a monopoly in whatever space you're in.
If you have a unique business that does something nobody else is doing, you have something that is a monopoly, at least for a while. And my claim is that everybody who is a founder, an entrepreneur, an investor, an early employee in these companies, you always want to aim for monopoly.
Do you agree with that?
No. No, I don't agree with it. And maybe this is because I'm too small in my thinking. And I may be too small in my thinking. Man, businesses I go into, they're so ginormous. I mean, the last business I made $250 million on an exit. We had less than 1% of the market.
Which business was this?
It was the fraud business in the payments industry. Okay, the most recent one that was involved in the divorce, which, by the way, I just finalized yesterday, which is another lesson. Okay, hey, founders, the mistake they make, they're doing business with their wife or their girlfriend. Big problem. Yeah, so I think the upside, you can build these businesses. I mean, right now, it's obvious you don't have any help, but watch what happens next year. You're going to go, okay, I'm going to bring some help on. You're going to start expanding it, but you're going to do it really smart. You're not going to go, oh, I'm going to go hire 10 people and go into debt over it. You're going to add them. Why? Because you have to. You don't have CBS's money to go, let's go build a hot studio. Who cares, right? So that's just the way I look at, how the entrepreneurial journey is.
I got one more question for you, Gary. If you look around at the world right now, at society, what is it that society needs the most? In other words, if you were, let's say, back in your 20s, you had to build a new company that could fulfill the needs of whatever it is society wants right now, what business would you build?
It's so funny you're asking me that, because I think I've actually identified another opportunity. And it's one of the reasons that you and I met, because I've never spent any time social media. Like, I'm not a known person. My brother is. I think I would build something that helps bring people together without arguing so much. And that pretty much, like, I'm literally thinking about investing in a startup media company. And I have no experience in media whatsoever. But I see mainstream media, is being absolutely slaughtered right now. It's 6 months. I could see CNN and Fox having half as many people watching their TV. I think this is going to happen so radically and so fast. Just look at last night's debate. I have seen high school debates run by high school moderators better than that. That was so embarrassing. This is not helping this country. This bickering amongst wealthy people, yelling and screaming at each other, behaving like teenagers, okay? That would never have happened if I would have been running that show, no chance, man. It was almost like a setup. So I see a big gap. That's why I'm really commending you. This is not bullshit. I think what you did to leave Kitco was awesome. Your timing is freaking brilliant. I wouldn't have left any earlier. And you are going to help shape, because if you don't, you're just going to get in my way. But I will help shape how media really knocks out the legs of the propaganda machine. This country doesn't need propaganda, man. It needs some truth.
What would you do differently? Let's say you're building your own media company right now. How would you set yourself apart from Fox? Let's say. I'm just using Fox as an example. It could be any channel.
Yeah. Well, and look, there's 8 billion people on the planet. Like, my media focus would be the 8 billion people that like Gary Cardone and Gary Cardone's views. That's all I need. I don't need to do anything other than, hey, this is who I am. Hey, David, come join the crew. This is who David is. You're going to be similar to me, or otherwise you're not going to do it. There's 8 billion people on the planet. How many people does Fox touch every day, roughly? I don't care how big the number is. I think I could get that many viewers. And I think I can do it cheaper, okay? Because I'm not going to charge for views. Now, you guys will hate me because I'm not charging it. You don't need to pay me. Okay, let's create content together. Let's create a community together. We'll figure the money out later because we're not going to be spending it with a bunch of guys that do nothing but go to war. And all you need is, and my brother taught me this, when he really smashed into Facebook, he was like, hey, if 4 billion people hate me, that means 8 billion people know me. So it's just the law of big numbers. You and I, normal citizens of the world, have never had access to 8 billion people. That has to be an opportunity, David, not only for us, but also for them. I mean, we're going to meet some kid in Sri Lanka that's never been attached to the world, and he's going to be a genius. Okay. He's going to have, listen to Elon this morning. He's a bright guy, man. We find a couple more Elons on this planet. That'd be cool to me.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're thinking of media. Wouldn't have thought about that. What was your first job, actually? Just a final question. You said you got out of college with your twin brother, first early 80s, right during a recession. There was a recession in the early 80s. You were hustling for jobs. What was your first job?
21 years old, drove to Houston, Texas, got a job working for an energy company. And about 3 months later, the energy regulator changed all the rules, and I was in the right place at the right time, and I basically became a commodity trader and helped deregulate the entire natural gas and power markets in the United States. The beauty behind that business was it taught me everything I needed to know from the supply all the way to the demand side. Now I can look at every business with that exact same footprint. Which is kind of hilarious because I'm actually going to end up back in energy through the Bitcoin piece. And that's a great topic we should have sometime with some miners. I think this entire mining business in Bitcoin is going to massively change. I mean, it's not going to look anything like what it looks like today in 2 years.
Cool. Let's follow up next time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, buddy.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Great to see you.
All right.
Ciao.